If ArriveCAN isn't at the top of your mind, then you are not ready to travel to Canada. Cruising isn't as simple as simply arriving to Canada and showing up and winging it. No, there's a few extra steps that you need to take when you arrive. So today we're going to break down exactly what you need to travel to Canada. Good morning, my name is Steven, and today we're going to be talking about the health and safety protocols for cruising in and out of Canada. If you're going on a cruise that starts in Canada, ends in Canada, or even just stops for one day in a port in Canada, this video is for you. And if you're doing an Alaskan cruise this season, then you are more than likely going to be in Canada for at least one day. I took a Pacific Coastal cruise from San Diego to Vancouver, Canada aboard the Disney Wonder earlier this month. And let's just say there was a lot of confusion when we arrived in Vancouver, so I wanted to make sure that you were prepared and didn't make the same mistakes that we did when we arrived. First off, to travel in and out of Canada, regardless of how you are arriving, you need to have the Arrive Canada app, and you must have your travel plan set up ahead of time. And once you have that, it'll give you a QR code that will be required to arrive in Canada. Whether you're arriving in Canada by car, by plane, by ship, or even just stepping off for just a quick moment off a ship, you need the Arrive Canada QR code. To be honest, when we got to Vancouver, they didn't check for it, but that was an entire different mess that day. We were one of the first cruises into Vancouver terminal, and that might have just been a miscommunication across the team there. And we needed it, and they just didn't check for it. I'm not too sure, but that's just what we experienced. I don't want you to arrive in Canada and not have it and need it. It definitely is something that they are stating across all cruise lines, across the Canadian government, wherever you look, it says that you must have that filled out. So make sure that you do that. Thankfully though, COVID testing is not required to get into Canada. That was originally going to be a mandate for cruising, but thankfully they recently dropped that. However, I did read that those who arrive by plane or through car might be required at a random selection to take a test. I don't know how much they're enforcing it, but it's on the Canadian website, so do with that as you will. Now, if you need to get a COVID test to board a cruise ship, or because you're traveling to another country and you need a test, then I recommend looking into getting a test at the airport terminal. I recommend that you make an appointment ahead of time, but they do accept walk-ups. In fact, I was a walk-up that day. They provide a rapid antigen test for $79 per person per test. It's located pre-security on the main terminal on level 3 arrivals, and it's open from 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Please check before you go and confirm what I said in case they change it. There's a link down below for those of you who are interested. Yes, $80 is a lot of money, but a whole flight or a cruise is a lot more money, so please don't skip out on that. Vaccination requirements are as follows. In order to board a cruise ship that will port in Canada at any point throughout the cruise, if you are 12 years or older, you must be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to board. There are some exceptions, I don't know what they are, but in most cases it's required. Most cruise lines though already have that requirement of 12 years or older. In fact, Disney Cruise Line is one of those that is 5 years and older. Make sure you know what cruise that you are taking and what their requirements are. So let's go ahead and start the process for Arrive Canada. I've talked about it multiple times. In case you're confused on what it is, here it is. So welcome to Arrive Canada, or ArriveCAN. I'll be doing it in my desktop, but you can do it on Android or iOS. In fact, that's where it's recommended. It's more of an app. ArriveCAN, you can download to your phone, set up an account, and it'll do the exact same thing as a desktop. Let's go ahead and get started. I already have an account, so we are going to be pretty much all set with that. Pretty simple. All you have to do is put in an email, create a password, the basic account making steps. You don't need to go through that with me. We're gonna skip straight to the good stuff. So once you get into the Arrive Canada app, you are gonna have to set up Travelers. Travelers is gonna be the first thing. I'm already set up on it, but I'm gonna take you to the steps on how to actually fill that out. Now, to note, for Travelers, you can fill this out for your entire party. You don't have to create separate individual apps. You can do it for everyone. So I'm gonna take you through one traveler, and it should be pretty much the same for the rest of it. It's gonna ask you for a document that kind of proves that you are who you are. Passport's gonna be the safe bet, and that's what I went with right here. Your passport number, your name, and then date of birth. All simple stuff. Next thing is gonna ask you, are you fully vaccinated against COVID-19? The answer should be yes. I don't know what's gonna happen if you say no. 5 and over is generally where it's gonna be at. So that's when you would select no. And then if you're an adult over the age of 12, I don't know what the rules would be for you. That's something completely different. Maybe there is an exemption that I don't know of. It did say in the fine details that most cases it's required, so I don't know what that little asterisk part meant. Maybe you can get away with it. Let me know if you know, but I don't think so. So the next step after that, once you select yes, it's going to ask you the information about what your vaccine is, when you got it, the first and second dose. Just fill that out. If you have the single dose, I think there's an option for that as well. But just pretty much copy it from your vaccine card and just put that in as well. Simple stuff, simple stuff. On to the next part. Don't worry, we are 58% of the way there. We're almost through. I know this is a lot. Just bear with me, okay? Now we're gonna talk about what the requirements are. This is giving you some pretty important information. Those who are fully vaccinated do not need to take a test. They're not required to anymore, thankfully. But again, I mentioned that maybe you could get stopped randomly. I'm not too sure how that works. I just read that. And then if you fall under the age of 5 to 12 who are unvaxxed, you need to take a test in order to arrive into Canada. All that information is right there. Make sure you look into it specifically. Make sure that you show proof of vaccination or that you've been tested. You can get fined or you can get denied into Canada, and you don't want either of those two options. They sound terrible. Personally, I don't think I'd want to be fined or denied. The other notice at the bottom here is going to be quarantine requirements. You need to have a quarantine plan, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go a little further into it. Just be warned, you need a quarantine plan. Be sure to think about that as you're coming. You don't have to follow through with that plan. Like say if it actually happens, you test positive, things start going haywire, you can make adjustments to the plan. The Canadian government will not hold you to that exact plan. I do recommend if you're going to go through the trouble of coming up with a plan, try to come up with one that you can actually do. Ultimately, I understand, and that's all it's asking for in that page. Then it's gonna ask you if you've traveled in other countries. Then it's going to come up with the COVID-19 assessment. They're gonna ask you, are you feeling any of these symptoms? The answer should be no. If it's yes, then maybe you should be reconsidering about traveling on your trip. Then it is going to give you at the end a QR code that you can go ahead and arrive into Canada. That's what they're asking for, is that QR code that is actually blurred, and you cannot use that QR code because I don't want you stealing my QR code. Create your own QR code, but that's what you're looking for at the end of it. I will note that last time it did ask me for an actual plan that I had to fill out. This time it didn't. I don't know if it's because I already have a plan filed with the Canadian government and they just kind of took that and said that's what your plan still is. But if it does ask you for the plan, what I recommend is that you just go ahead and look into some of the hotels that offer services to those that have tested positive. If you're on a cruise ship, your home quarantine will be the cruise ship. You'll be quarantining with the cruise ship. They will take care of all of it. They are required to. If you test positive during the cruise or at the end of the cruise when you get off, the cruise is required to handle your plans for testing positive and quarantining. They will take care of all that. I do recommend if you're traveling to another country, specifically such as Canada, and you're doing cruises or just in general, you should have travel insurance. Make sure you have that just in case if you need to be on your own. When we went to Canada, Jalen stayed back and I went straight home. Those few days where she was in Vancouver still, she would be on her own for quarantining. That's why we had to create a plan and all that. We had a plan. Thankfully, we didn't have to put it into action, but we were somewhat ready in case if that happened. I don't know fully how well that would have worked. I'm glad that we didn't have to deal with it. That would be a completely different story. Just keep it in mind. I don't want anyone to get trapped and be in trouble because they weren't ready. Canada is just asking that you are prepared and that you are thinking about all these different scenarios, are understanding that it is possible to test positive for the virus, and that if you do, that you need to quarantine. That's all it's looking for, and it's making sure that you also know the requirements to get into Canada. That's the whole Arrive Canada thing. Thankfully, they are not as strict as they were going to be, where you need to get tested to visit ports, where you need to be tested like to get off in the ship at the end of the cruise. They loosened those restrictions and it's not as bad. Things have gotten a lot easier, and the cruising for the Alaska season seems to be much better. Yes, make sure you do this ahead of time before your trip. You don't want to get denied in arrival of Canada, and if you're coming in on a cruise ship, they may require it for boarding. Say if you're boarding in Seattle or if you're boarding in Alaska, you may be required to fill that out before you get on the ship. It is something that they are being a little strict with. We had to do it before we went on our cruise, so just keep that in mind as well. Yeah, and yes, I did just fill out a cruise that is non-existent. Really, I'm not on that cruise. It was for demonstration purposes only. So Canadian government, please don't get mad. I'm trying to show others the process so that way everyone can fill it out and follow the rules. Now, I hope just in general that Arrive Canada was a lot more simpler than you thought it was. I feel like it's gonna be simplified as time goes on. Things will get easier. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment down below. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have. I don't want anyone to struggle, be confused, or run into any complications when they're on their vacation. It's supposed to be vacation, it's supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be nice, relaxing. You don't want to be stressing out about this stuff. So please make sure you fill out ArriveCAN, make sure you're aware of all requirements to get into Canada or wherever you are going. And if you don't have a cruise planned for Alaska this year, I don't know why you watched that video, but maybe you're thinking about planning a cruise, in which case, power to you. I do recommend it. Canada and Alaska are beautiful places. I think that's all the things that I wanted to say. Hopefully this video helped you out. Please leave a like if this helped at all. I do apologize this video is out so much later than I wanted to, but don't worry, we are going to be coming back with content. It was a little bit of a break. We're back. Coming up Friday, we're going to be releasing the cruise on the Wonder and thereon after. We're going to be sharing the entire adventure. Really excited to share it with you. We had some ups and we had some downs, so make sure to check that out when it comes out. And as always, this isn't a goodbye, but just a see ya real soon.